One of the results that we made is this web page that we create for promote the area of Teișani, and is reachable through the HTTP discover.teișani.ro that you can see on the top. And basically we made it in bilingual, so it's the possibility to make it in English or in Romanian, just clicking the flags that are here. And of course it's like a collection of all the material that we create. Also the logo, for example, was made by one of the volunteers of Curba de Cultură, so everything is original. And is divided in 4 main sections, that is Despre, Teișani, localnici and locuri. The page of Despre is divided in 3 sub other pages, and it is about all the info. So the info about the team, that are our 4, plus the 2 coordinators, Cristina and Doana. About the project, so where were our intent, our goal, our target, how we did it. And about the commune, also I can show you. About the commune, we are like writing about a bit of context. So where is Teișani, first of all? How to reach Teișani, that could be important for people that doesn't know nothing about. And is a village, how you can see here, of 4,000 inhabitants, more or less. And here it's possible to find every kind of information. Here the village, that is a big commune, is divided in 5 hamlets that are Teișani, Olteni, Valea Stalpului, Stubeiu and Bughea de Sus. And with this ecographic that we made, it's possible to see everything that is in the little hamlet. Of course, now I open the one that is more, that has less stuff, because Bughea de Sus is the wildest fragment of Teișani, and for example they don't have access to water there, and people are taking the rain for washing clothes or for what else. There are a lot of problems over there, because of course if you are a farmer and you don't have access to water, could be a problem. We add here every kind, because a thing that I saw here in Romania, that to move with train is something impossible. Sometimes I really wanted to fold to move somewhere, because with the train is Jesus crazy. So in this way everything is already in the site, so it's more easy also for move. About the big content, we have this page that is Descoperă Teișani, in which we add the digitalized form of all the articles that we made, that we did. They touch a lot of different topics, because was like a subjective intention of talking or make research of a specific topic, and everybody made some of them. They can go through history. Here we divided in this main topic, that is social history, tradiții and rețete. So every article has an own page. There is a little abstract, and I will open the first one just to show you the design of the page. Specific photos, this is mainly the design of that. But it's important, this page, also because we had something that you cannot find in the monography, because the article you can find it on the paper. But we had also, how to get back actually, F11. We had the link to reach the page of YouTube of some videos that we made. And of course the topic is the same, so how the people live in Teișani, how they see reality, how they approach to the normal life and the quotidianity. One example could be this one, in which we met this woman that is making carpets, and is a kind of activity that is a bit lost. Like you can really feel that is something that, I don't know if in 20 years other people will make the same job that she's doing. So we meet her, she shows us all the technique. And about localnici, we decided that to have a section to promote the local producer of the area. This is why Of course, they have some kind of contact to promote their product around the commune, between the neighborhood or other. I don't know if you know about Valini de Monte, that is a center that is a bit bigger next to Teișani. Most of them are selling their stuff there, but it's true that they don't have the tools that we went to give to them, to promote them. So having a web page or be promoted like in other part of Romania. And here is the section. We create this map that for now counts 3 local producers, but of course in the future there will be added. With information where you can find Miss Neta Janeta Timaru and buy the cheese of Miss Janeta Timaru. How it costs, the number of phone, I mean about this character, she's living in the hills, so it's a bit difficult to reach, or at least now it's possible to call her if she replies, I don't know. But this will not be only for promote the local producer, but also for other kind of character that people can find in Teișani. We were thinking, for example, that it could be nice to add a kind of guide or a youngster that could be the guide of someone that doesn't know nothing and want just maybe to go to walk in the nature, for example. The last part, Lopuri, we decided to add because it's not really related strictly to Teișani, to the commune, but there are still places that are around the area, and this is of course for the promotion of the area, of people that maybe wants just to go to the mountain Chucas, for example, or they want to go in Islamic. These are all the points of interest that are in the influence area of Teișani. Rural Olympics is an event that Curba de Cultură made every year in the summer, and is based on make activities that have the rural team on it. Like for example, if you want to challenge someone of your family to meet cacao, actually you can do it then. You just need to wait the summer. Or at this monastery, if you like to fish, or this festival in Valini de Monte that it's about Tsuica. Of course, it's better if you decide before, like the driver. Important also is this part, that are the paths. Basically, we decided was important to map some paths that are around the commune. This is because are kind of paths that people are used maybe with the carriage and horses to bring a kind of material from a village to another one, and are not tracked. So if a tourist, for example, want to go truly in nature, he didn't know nothing before this work that we made, and it's possible, for example, to click here to open a page in Google Maps. And it will be possible just so to follow the track. We have point of interest in during the path, a small description here about some suggestion, about some info of the. Imagine it like a sort of a brochure, like you go in an hotel and they give you a brochure of things that you can do. What else? Important is that in the web page is that in this page that is in proiectul, we already add actually the link to reach the documentary that we did on YouTube, and also the monograph that is possible also to download in PDF, and it's here, Descarga Monografia.
The monograph is available also in Romanian and in English. In the page that about us in Romanian, you can download it in PDF, the Romanian version. But if you go in the English, you will download the English version. And if you have the physical book right now, you will see that both versions are included. In one side is one, and in the other language. Basically, everything that is in the monograph, it's in the website. But in the website, you can access to more interactive content, like the paths that that Andrea has described. I have here also open, because maybe it's fast. But here is basically you can see also a thing that is not in the website actually. is this introduction of Christina. A little bit of ourselves and the table of contents. We include basically the articles that are written also in the website, and the results with the photos that probably some of them are more visible here than in the website. That's another thing. And as you can see, you can also have even the footnotes. It's detailed here. Also has a gallery of photos in the middle between one version and the other. It's also worthwhile to mention that we have a channel of YouTube with more videos. We uploaded actually all the interviews that we did are already there, and not all are appearing in the documentary, because at the end the documentary is a selection to create a narration. Here is something that I wanted to show. This is a pad. It includes the QR code that if you use it, it will go directly to the Google Maps.
Ce e așa special la Teișani de merită o monografie, o carte, un film și un website?
By one hand, in Teișani there is this lifestyle, that is the lifestyle of rural Romania, which is actually quite different from any other rural life in the rest of Europe. For example, in my place, it's totally different. We can say that people here lives more in the way that our grandparents used to say that it's a rural area when they were young. But still, you can see that this lifestyle gets mixed with the modern times and the modern, all kind of modernity. In second hand, we of course didn't know all of this. We discovered Teișani also while we were doing the project. It was Curba de Cultură, which was set here before us and brought us here, which is really special here in Romania, because, for example, they have a youth center, which is, I think, correct me if I'm not mistaken, the only one in Romania which is in a rural area like this. And this has been really helpful. For example, if it was not because of this, we wouldn't have the first local contacts that were the young people that brought us to the rest of the contacts. Also, I wanted to mention that through these materials, it's the opportunity to put value in all these, let's say, traditional points of the locals, which is more in contact with nature.
În ceea ce privește viața în mediul rural, cum a fost pentru voi să vă obișnuiți cu asta?
Yeah, I grew up in redneck rural Sweden, and rural Sweden and rural Romania is very different. Similar in some ways. In rural Sweden there's a bunch of rednecks making homemade alcohol, living in the forest, and here it can be quite similar, but different and this is a big difference. in rural Romania you have way more domestic animals. And when I came here, I've been living either close to a town or in a town, but kind of rural. So I knew I had to make some sacrifices, like not being able to travel as easily because of bus connections and train connections, and not having the greatest access to convenience stores. So I was kind of prepared for that sort of thing. The rest just came as it usually comes when you travel abroad and travel and discover you don't know what you're gonna see before you see it. So that's both the horror of traveling abroad and the pleasure of it.
Monografia și materialele în general abordează subiecte diferite. Cum ați ales subiectele și sau ce v-a inspirat?
Well, first of all we did some brainstorming of ideas to have a general approximation of what was catching our attention the most. And we realized that mostly we can divide the topics in three, like the things that are related with tradition, like traditional houses, work that is made in a traditional way, mostly, and the houses, because it's also they are so different where we are coming from, and they are so characteristic, I think, here. And the farming and the agriculture, especially the agricultural work and the farming, is also something that you can see in the documentary, and I think it's something that is really one of the things that we wanted to get more into detail, because it's more exceptional for us or more interesting for us to put value on it. We also put focus in social aspects, like we wanted to know, for instance, about the youth or about the life of women in particular. In this specific topic, I can say that personally I was inspired for a book that I read the last year by a veterinary in Spain that put emphasis in if work of women has been invisible in general, in rural areas was even more. So this inspires me to say, so how is here the youth? Well, when I was a teenager, I was thinking that the most exciting was going to the city. I was wondering if here the youth were interested to live in Teișani, or they were looking in the village or the commune as with interest, or if it was special for them, or they were not seeing anything on it. So this, for instance, is one of the reasons that came to my mind to put this topic in one of the articles. But we also interview people in particular, so we wanted to know the specific life of that person. Or we have also topics related with the grocery stores that we find it also really characteristic, because in the commune there is mostly these magazines in general that are kind of the same, with the same products, and also the troitza is something that we didn't know exactly why there were these kind of little charts in the corners. Things that catch our attention because, or it's totally different from our countries, or because we detected that it's a kind of a pattern that was appearing. These are kind of the reasons of why we choose these kind of topics.
I wanted to add because we also have the recipes and the paths, and the reason why I wanted to put in the recipes, because I was kind of in charge of that, is because I wanted to promote local, everyday Romanian food that the locals eat, because for me that's interesting, because one, that's not the same food I grew up with, So it's always interesting to see culture from a food perspective, because that helps you understand the people a bit, and because for me it's a good way to travel. If you can't physically go somewhere, you can always cook traditional food from a country and travel that way. And when it comes to collecting the paps, we wanted to highlight the beautiful nature of the commune, because there's a lot of beautiful nature, a lot of rolling hills, you have the mountains in the background, you have the forest, and we want to highlight that via paths.
O bună parte din munca voastră a fost procesul de filmare și de editare a documentarului, a materialelor de pe YouTube. Care a fost partea cea mai dificilă în procesul ăsta?
For me, I was really used to, when it's the time to record something, a project, I'm more used to planificate everything before, to do a research, a deep research, to know the space, the people, and then do a script, everything that is pre-production stuff and work. But in this case was really challenging, the fact that we needed to record at the same time that we were discovering precisely the space and the people that can be recorded or not, or the people that is interesting to record or not, because we arrived and we didn't know even anything about Romania. We were learning even about this. So was challenging, for instance, the fact that the first time that we met people, we didn't know if it would be the first and the last time, because we didn't know if that person would be available later or would change her or his mind, or would have the patience to see us again. Like, for instance, I don't know how many times we have visited a beekeeper, but probably it's exception. I don't see other people that we have met having the patience that Eugene, that is the beekeeper, has had with us. So I think this is extremely challenging. We didn't know how the documentary would look like until really recently, like maybe 2 months ago. And we didn't have proper script that we can say, because the script depended on the people that we were interviewing. So through that and through the things that we were discovering that maybe was worthwhile to record. So was after during this process that we were at the same time elaborating and thinking, oh, maybe we need to go there or go to that other person, or look, this person has the contact of this other person. These things that happens during the year.
And not only to figure out the content of the materials, but also to learn how to bring this content to the final results.
In the other hand, there were people that were not trusting this kind of process or this kind of tools, for example, to promote them. Of course, are people that were not in connection with those kind of tools. So you can be also scared, you can don't trust that kind of approach, you can be suspicious. Maybe there were people that were looking at us, that we were taking picture of a church, for example. And they were passing, like saying, what are you doing in a church? I mean, and we were like there with the tripod, trying to catch. And they were like, it's totally normal, why you are putting interest in this thing? In the other hand, maybe there were people like just watching at us, making an interview with somebody in the garden, and saw the woman like coming out like so quickly saying something like, my garden is nice too, why you don't come tomorrow? So it was like ambivalent, it was really depending of what they were thinking, and in every case it was a process also for them accept this kind of stuff. And when you are introducing something that is not belong to the contest, you need to count that somebody, of course, will go not in your direction.
I wanted to say also that when we were working, it was like that. There was people that was curious about what we were doing. Also people that was not understanding what we were doing. And from both cases, we even get good relations, because of course, if you talk, there is good people everywhere, and if you talk to all of them with respect, they will treat you with respect. But I wanted to mention the importance in this case of having the initiative of getting close to the community and talk with them, even if it's in Romanian, which was also another handicap that we had, to learn their language, because few people in the village will actually speak English. And of course, when we were recording and working, it was like that. But also, I wanted to point to the importance of the work that we made not while in our working hours, but in other time. For example, we've been interviewing and recording this guy, the beekeeper, Eugen, but we have also made other stuff with him, even if we were not working. We were just networking and actually getting to be friends with these locals. And it was really, really important. It's something that it's noticeable in the final results of the work.
Yeah, the people that are like the main character of the documentary, I really consider like friends of us, because they were the people that more open to us, but not because there was like step by step, so you are taking the trust, you know. Sometimes was just, there was a dude that the first meeting that I had with him, he passed me the phone saying, "Call my son in Italy." And I was like, "Bună ziua." So was depending really on the people, but I really consider them like friends, and yeah, they made a lot for us, for sure.
I want you guys to make somehow a time lapse about how you felt and how you feel right now about the project. What do I mean? So when you first came here, you kind of come from more developed countries than Romania. That's the truth, like Spain, Sweden, and so at first, when you saw the rural life here in Romania, I really think that was a little bit of shock, maybe, or because it's very different from what you are guys used to. And how do you feel right now about all those stuff? What impressed you? What elements from the rural life from here are, I don't know, things to preserve, and what do we need to change somehow, maybe? There are a lot of questions here.
Well, in my case, I also come from not a rural area in Spain, but a more or less rural. It's a small city, actually, we can say, but all the people will call this kind of cities like the town or the village, even though there is like 10,000 people living there. The fact is that when I came here, one of the first things that I realized is that people has a lot of space, and in that space they use it for make things that usually people doesn't do in Spain, like raise animals, like I don't know, they have a garden with like a vegetable yard or whatever. And the horses, I'm used actually to see horses in my town, but the people there use it for entertainment and recreation, and not everybody can afford it. But here people use them actually for work, and they use it to get a living. No? They use it for their stuff.
For me, one thing that impressed me is that in the same street, especially I remember the street where we were living at the beginning, you can see palaces houses that are amazingly big, and also houses or in ruins or super basic. So there is, you can see really the difference of people with economically different, like with more money and people with less money living in the same street. And this is totally different from where I live. The people that doesn't have money lives in ghettos. For sure they don't have garden and they cannot plant and have animals because they cannot have. And here the concept that I read more about is about the agriculture of subsistence. And I was wondering how would be the people that doesn't have resources in Spain, maybe doesn't have resources here, but at least they can have their own production, what they need for it by cultivating or working by themselves. I'm not meaning that it's better or worse one situation or the other, but this is a kind of contrast. For me, the people that I meet here and they have shared with us that doesn't have less resources have shared it a lot with us. That's also impressed me. Even it seems they don't have too much. They were with this predisposition of sharing. Probably also in terms of what changed in me, of how I feel, it's true that in Spain I was kind of trying to be activist in terms of xenophobic issues and racism. And in Spain, when I was saying to the people that I will go to Romania, I received a lot of comments that were super xenophobic. People that doesn't have actually idea about Romania. And I'm totally convinced that right now I come back again and I hear the same comments, I would react totally more enabled probably and different, and for sure saying you have no idea about what you're saying. So I think it's a good, actually, I would say.
Yeah, for me that was a bit shocking because I don't know, I felt like when I arrived here, the first impression that I made like a jump in the past of how Italy was like 20-30 years ago, because I don't know, everything, like the cars, they were looking old, kind of old, but also in the radio there were kind of songs that I'm not listening anymore, like in 20 years. So, it was everything like with this kind of retro feelings. In the rural context was like I found what my grandma was saying of her youth, the village in which she grew up, and I saw the exact thing here in Romania. And about the changing, it's true, because not only Romania but all the east part, people don't know a lot of this area, like also in Ukraine, all the area that people doesn't know a lot about. And so they are based also in Italy, all the kind of judgment on a lot of stereotypes. And it's true that, as Gertrude was saying, that I have for sure more information to say that it's not totally true, that I have also arguments, and I live there, I know now how, in part, how he's living there. And it's totally different how also kind of institutions are presenting the East Europe in general and Romania.
Yeah, and for me, when I first got here, it was a shock seeing a horse-drawn carriages going down the main street, and it's like, again what I said, going back to the 1960s in Sweden is something that you don't really see anymore in Sweden, because I've seen horses, but they are for, again, entertainment. It's written by usually younger girls that want a horse and their parents let them train equestrian things, and so it's weird here to see them being utilized as beasts of burdens, because that's what a horse is. And the thing that impressed me, and the thing I really like with Romania, is the small family farms where they have chickens, where they have tomatoes, because that's something we don't really have in Sweden. Even people who have yards don't really have a lot of vegetables usually. And I think that's something we can try to bring back. It's going to be difficult in some places because where I live, we can't have things like tomatoes because I live in the mountains. So it's colder, the ground is harder, it's rocky. But we can still grow some things and we can have, for example, meat production.
I also wanted to add that in Spain, for example, there is like a problem of population in the rural areas, and what's happening is that people is leaving from these places to live in the city. But here we have met people that wants to live in the rural areas, and they want to build a house there, and even if it's just for holidays, but there are people that also wants to live there like permanently.
Yeah, since you were talking about the impact that it had on you, I would also be curious, and this is something that I wanted to ask you before, but maybe now at the end is the good moment. What do you think is the impact for the community, for the people that you work with? What is, how are the results and everything that you did with them impacted them as Teișani?
For me, it was important what we did because in some way we bring like awareness in them that what they are doing is important. Because often happen that when you are thinking of rural, you are also thinking in your mind, you are creating this kind of dualism with what is rural and what is modern. And in this way you are also saying that the things that are connecting to modernization are important, are worth it. And everything that is coming from a rural area is something that or is not worth it or was past. So rural is something that is a kind of step in construction of society that was past. So doesn't need attention anymore because we develop. And it's not really like this. And there were a lot of people that we interviewed, like the Ciobanizza, no? And she was like so happy of the fact that people that are coming from other country arrived and they are showing interest of something that she's making of her the life. Kind of interesting that maybe is a bit more, if something is quotidianic for you, you don't put a lot of importance. You just say that this is the way in which I live. But for us was totally different because we're coming from different context. And so for me at the end, I really could understand that the kind of life and the action that they made during their life is important as the same way as in the modern big city or metropolis, just a different way of constructive reality and approaching the reality. But they are not connected in a process of development.
So you have said before you have made some relation, like almost friendly relation with the beekeeper Neta, and now soon you leave. Do you think you want and you can keep a kind of contact? Because finally, how you said before, for some of local people it was amazing. Some other people arrived in Romania, discovered Romania, Teișani, put interest of their knowledge, and so after 1 year, for sure, when you leave, make them also strange, because finally you was a little bit the daily life also now of the commune and these people.
Yeah, I want for sure like keep contact with someone. For someone else could be more difficult because they don't have access maybe to social media, but I'm already like super fun and in a super hard like discussion with the beekeeper that every time that he's going somewhere he sends me photos. And I never think of that, but I think that, I mean, now that I'm leaving and come back to Italy, it will be so weird, like adapting myself again to a different kind of life, and is a thing that I will bring with myself forever. And I don't know, probably the police will arrive in my house if I make a barbecue with the music, you know. So I need to, but I want really also maybe to come back in a more time and see how the thing were changed, and to meet again the people, hoping that what we did and the product that we achieve could be a step for something of a big process, of a big drawing that is the thing that the association wants to do through all these steps that are making this big mosaic that is doing everything for the rurality without changing the rurality.
For me, it's the same. I would really like to come back in the future. It's not like I will leave and I will forget about all of this. I could not. But we'll see. Also the fact that, because I don't know, it could be like super. In my mind, is like that. It's like exciting the thought of going back to the places that you've visited before after several years and meet people that you used to know, and yeah, I don't know. It's an amazing idea for me.
Yeah, it's the fact that I haven't think about that, because it's true that I consider that it will be strange when I come back to Spain, and it will be really strange also, I think, to visit, I mean, to come back here after a year even, it will remove a lot of feelings, for sure, because has been experience super intense. I've been working like super a lot. I thought that I would have, I even have time even to read other books. I mean, I really read, disconnect from the area, very few. So for me, it's been so strange that so intense that for it's going to remove a lot of things. I just worry because I have the feeling that if I'm going to the city, I'm going to hate it even more. So I don't know. I'm in the mood right now of, I don't know. Let's process what I am doing right now. Let's process this conclusion of the project, and of course, I don't want to disconnect of this at all, because I've been really strongly connected with this project, the people, and the place. So it's how I'm feeling right now.
Also, that it's weird because in my town that is 60,000 inhabitants, I never felt that kind of being in a community that I felt it here. So really, I'm totally connected here, because I had that feelings of sharing everything with your neighbor and feeling that you are part of something that is close over you.
So now that you have a perspective, you have your modern life in your hometowns, and you had 1 year living in a rural area here in Romania. Do you really think that the ways that those people are living are to be really preserved? But I'm not asking as from a tourism perspective, as really as a way of living, of course with modern adjustments.
As a short answer, yes, I think it's worth to preserve that sort of thing. For a longer answer is, I think there's an importance in being connected to the country and the land in that way that they are. Because when you live in a city, it's kind of easy to forget about nature. You get so involved in the urban community and everything around you like that, those sort of things kind of disappears from your mind. Well, if you're working with nature, if you're working with animals, if you're working the land, you get greater connection for it and you understand it better.
And I don't know, because it's a big topic. It's really difficult when you have to talk also with other kind of project that maybe are trying to add something or to help the development in Asia, in Africa, or in places that are more poor. it's a hard topic because you can add some kind of tool, but you don't have to transform the area. So I don't know if preserving is the nice word to use it, because they will face the future how they will. There will has to be no one like coming from outside trying to push into a words onto the other one. Is a thing that they have to face.
Yeah.
You can give tools, but you have not to impose like a kind of approach or something. Curba de Cultură, I know that this point is really keep it in mind. Also was a methodology that we used. We never wanted to push the people in a direction. We never push a local producer of the fact, you need to have a website. Everything was coming from there. And also with the documentary, we were like a kind of tools that they used.
Just comment that, yes, again, I think it's more sustainable than other ways of producing. For instance, I'm thinking they want to create in Spain right now a super enormous farming of, I don't know, it's 2,000 cows. And for me, it's interesting the concept that you can, the extensive farming.
Yeah.
Because for one hand they are cleaning the meadow, the animals, and it's other kind of productions that I found actually sustainable. And I found sustainable that the people in the area can produce their own meat and in the area, and they consume that, and not creating these super enormous farmings that are actually the opposite of sustainable for the world in general.
It's really interesting that you mentioned balance. Maybe that's the key word, because also it was something also that Eugene, the beekeeper, mentioned. He was saying, I know that the agriculture without pesticides cannot be, but we need to find the balance, because if not, we are focusing in this, but we are also destroying this. And it's really interesting and exciting to think that it can be possible to have a balance.
Super! Mulțumim tuturor!